Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Inside Our Phillies podcast. We're glad to have you here. We're here on Sunday night, June 29th of 2025. The Phillies just took 2 out of 3 against the Atlanta Braves. But first, I want to introduce our guest, another former mod of our Phillies. We have PhilsForever. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I kind of represent the aged. No, I'm just kidding. I don't talk like that. Can you imagine if I did the whole podcast like that?
I think people would not like that.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, super happy to have you here. So the Phillies took 2 out of 3 against the Braves on Friday night. They won 13-0 in what was probably the best game of the year so far. They lost 6-4 in a pretty frustrating game last night on Saturday. And then a game that I didn't expect the Phillies to win, but they were able to pull it out with a 2-1 win here on Sunday afternoon. So let's get right into it. And I want to talk first about the game today and just kind of go over what the bullpen was like. I came into today expecting to lose. I thought that Ranger Suarez was going to be great, and he was. But I just don't trust this bullpen. And at the end of the day, the bullpen came through. But I think we're really starting to see the effects of Jose Alvarado not being here. Because when you go to that super high leverage situation, 1 run lead, heart of the order coming up for the Braves, they went to Matt Strahm, and he got through it. But I didn't particularly feel great about having Matt Strahm on the ground on the mound, and he still let up some really hard contact. So, what were your thoughts on like the bullpen today, and how would you manage this bullpen moving forward, at least up until the trade deadline?
I am so glad that I don't have to manage this bullpen. I feel for Topper. I really do because there's nobody that you can really trust in this bullpen at all. You can go to any one guy and think that he's going to be great because he was great the night before, and he'll totally blow up. So I really don't have any input as to how I would manage it. It's basically just throw someone out there and see how they do. Kirkering, I thought looked really good tonight. I mean, if it was me, I probably would say that would be my closer. He always goes to somebody like Strom or Romano in high leverage situations. Strom has a long history of being good in those kind of situations, but also flubbing from time to time.
Right.
And today, what might have been a case of that, you saw him, walk a batter, or I think he walked a batter, he got a hit. I can't remember, but towards the end, somebody got on base, and then a long fly ball where everybody held their breath, and you just don't know what's going to happen with this bullpen, and that's pretty scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing that kind of shows how today was a microcosm of this team was this offense doing enough to get the job done, but really not extending the lead, not giving us the insurance run, and not giving us the confidence. Look at the eighth inning of this game, for example. There were runners on second and third with nobody out, and 3 straight bad at bats by Castellanos, Kepler, and Muto. All of them got out, and we didn't get the insurance run that we really thought we needed, but ended up not needing at the end of the day. Um, the thing that's starting to frustrate me is these at bats are bad. We saw JT Realmuto pull over to shortstop every single time he was up to the plate today. We're seeing Castellanos and Kepler swing at a lot of first pitches. Um, where were you at on the offense in those three, especially?
I have zero faith in Castellanos. There are a lot of people in the subreddit that will um, support him just because he can hit a double from time to time. It's usually amounts to nothing, other than supporting his doubles stats.
Right.
Um, he's nobody on this lineup can drive a run in. I don't understand it. And you mentioned JT, and that's another thing. Is JT destined now to just GIDP every single at bat when there are runners in scoring position or runners on base, I should say? That instance that you were talking about, I believe, was first and second with I don't know if it was 1 or 0 or 1 out,
That was
but
earlier in the game, right?
maybe that was earlier in the
Yeah.
game. You're right. Yeah. But I mean, that kind of a situation with JT, it's automatic, and people say it in the subreddit, and that other teams are looking at that. This team doesn't seem to be able to hit anything other than a fastball for any kind of uh, any kind of situational hitting, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
It's either fastball home run or bust for a lot of these guys, and it's very, very frustrating. And those three that you mentioned are the key, basically. I would also mention Stott too in that, because in the past Stott has been a patient hitter, and he doesn't show that anymore. Um, it seems like all these guys are first pitch swingers now for whatever reason. Maybe that's the new approach.
So much
I don't
weak
know.
contact.
Yeah,
So
very weak contact, and especially like you said with JT, pull it to the shortstop. A lot of weak grounders to the infield, and wow, is it frustrating?
this is an unbelievably frustrating offense to watch, and I think that goes back to what you were talking about with the situational hitting. There's just not that many guys that I trust if there's a runner on third and one out to hit the ball in the air and give the runner a chance to score on a sac fly, or if you have second and third, at least hit the ball on the ground somewhere to the right side and force the infield to make a play. It's just shallow fly ball outs. It's pop flies. It's strikeouts. It's a complete lack of situational awareness that I think is making this team so frustrating to watch. At the end of the day, they won 2 out of 3, but I think a lot of people are still coming out of this series more frustrated than they were going into it. This was not the greatest week for the team.
Exactly, and you know what's funny is that we're we're still in first. We're on par. I think the last thing that I saw today was we're on track to have 95 wins. It seems impossible, and yet here we are. You know, and I think maybe that's because we're a little spoiled. There are some people that are, I don't, I hate focusing on just the negative. I also want to focus on some of the positives. Schwarber has not been the greatest of late, but he's still, pulling singles. Today he hit a single that mattered, and Turner has been a surprise. He's really stepped it up a little bit too, but still, they are not meeting expectations at all.
What do you think is more important for this team to improve at the trade deadline? Do you think they really need to add to this offense, or do you think they should add to the bullpen before they prioritize the offense?
Can you flip a coin? I mean, they need a bat. They need some kind of a spark for a bat, and maybe Bryce coming back will be that. I'm not sure. They definitely. I think it's the needle's pointing more toward bullpen help. They need bullpen help big time.
Yeah, and I think at least the bullpen could get some help from the starting pitching staff right now. But I think you brought up an interesting point with Bryce. So let's get it back into that. Um, we're expecting Bryce Harper to be back early this week, most likely tomorrow. Um, and I just don't know what we can expect out of him. It seems like the wrist problem was more of like a pain management and pain tolerance thing than something that he needs to get surgery for. It doesn't seem like this is something that can be surgically repaired. So my concern is really just what can we really expect out of him? At this point, Bryce Harper's on the wrong side of 30 as far as baseball players go, and while he is still an exceptional player, there are slight signs of regression, like his exit velocity is going down, swing velocity is going down. If you care about that kind of stuff, and I'm just concerned that this is a little too soon for him to be coming back. I don't need Bryce Harper to be peaking in July. I want him to be here for the end of the year, especially with the All Star break just weeks away at this point.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And we're not privy to the insider information as far as his health is concerned with that injury, but if they are pushing him back a little soon, just because it seems like the team's sputtering a little bit, then that's probably a bad thing. Having said that, you see the interviews with him where he says, "I feel great. I'm swinging okay. I'm fielding. I'm throwing. Everything seems fine. Should be, on track." I guess the proof will be in the pudding when he comes back and we see him actually try to play to his level. Hopefully, he will be able to come back and make a difference on the team, and maybe, like I said, be that spark. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of the guys that we can trust in a situational hitting position. And I think we're going to have to take a really good look at his body language because he usually makes it pretty clear when he's in pain with the grimacing and just pretty much making it look like he's in pain. So I know that I'm going to be looking at that a lot this week. Now,
Absolutely.
one more thing that I want to talk about this series, going back to yesterday, Jesus Luzardo. wasn't great. The numbers end up looking okay. You know, he didn't quite have a quality start, but he was able to get through five and was effective enough. But I'm starting to get concerned about the innings that Jesus Luzardo pitching. This is, I believe, the third time in his career that he's passed 100 innings in a season. And I am thinking that he looks like he needs a phantom IL stint. I think that he is going to be a starter long term. Next year, he's going to be a starter for this team. But for this year, what if we did just put him into the bullpen sooner rather than later? We know that with Nola coming back, and it sounds like that's going well, and with Painter coming up, we're going to have more starting pitchers than we need. And I know this sounds crazy because his peak as a starting pitcher, his ceiling is so high. But the floor is also a little bit low, and I just want to know what he's like in the bullpen before the deadline so we can know what exactly it is that we need. Because if he could be a lockdown, late inning, high leverage guy, which I think he absolutely has the potential to be, that might make things easier come the trade deadline in about a month.
I hear that. Who do you replace him with?
I think that you probably make that move when Painter comes up. I think Painter, probably should be up pretty soon. He's made 6 or 7 starts now in Lehigh Valley. So in the interim, while you have Painter up, even if it's just a couple week tryout of seeing how Luzardo can handle, the bullpen, warming up in a shorter time frame, I would be wanting to try that out at least for a couple weeks before the trade deadline.
I'm not sure that I agree with that. Only because, like you said, or did you say that he needed to go on the IL?
I think he looks like he needs a phantom IL stint or some way to just like lower the amount of innings that he's pitching right now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that's what you were alluding to. Yeah, I think I'd rather have him take a couple weeks off and have Painter come up and see how he does. Keep Luzardo, maybe even send him. I don't know if they can send him down. I don't know what his status is as far as control, because I know that that's a big thing where if they don't have control and they have to send him down and he needs to go on the waivers, I don't, we're definitely not going to do that.
No,
But yeah, I'm not sure.
it looks like
I
he is out of
maybe
options. Jesus
he
Luzardo
is
has
out of
no
options.
options. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't look that up, but yeah, I don't know if I want to see him go into the bullpen just because he's been doing so well. I know he had some hiccups, but he didn't pitch that bad the other day. Like you said, I know he's pitching a lot of pitches. But boy, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I
If
think
if Painter does come up, then maybe that might be an option.
Yeah, I think that one thing that's going to kind of hurt their flexibility is that they are very adamant and very clear that Andrew Painter is a starting pitcher. Um, I think he's not one of the best 5 options that the Phillies have. I think even McAbel is probably a better option than Andrew Painter is for this year as he's coming back from Tommy John. But if the Phillies are only interested in seeing Andrew Painter as a starting pitcher, at least in the regular season, it makes their options a little bit more narrow.
Right. And don't forget, waiting in the wings all the time. We have a star pitcher in the bullpen that's a starter.
Yeah.
Do you know who, do you know who I'm referencing?
Honestly, no, I do not know who you're referencing.
I think a lot of people out there would know who I'm referencing.
Who is it?
He's shown great ability to come in and save games, and of course I'm kidding. Um, I'm, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna say anymore. I don't want to make people mad.
Sure. So let's get on to one other thing. This kind of became a thing at the end of the Houston series, and is even more of a thing in the last couple days. And that's
I'm
Max
talking about
Kepler.
Taiwan. I'm talking about Taiwan, by the way.
Oh, I
It was
think
a big, it was a joke.
Taiwan Walker is, Ty leverage is not the answer. Ty leverage is not the answer in the bullpen.
No, I know. I'm just
but,
joking.
This is a good. You got me. I kind of forget about he's even on the team half the time.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
just, it's, you write his check, and that's all you need him for. Just accept that check.
Boy.
But
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I flubbed that joke.
that's okay. I was the one that didn't get it. So going back to Max Kepler, he was upset about his playing time. It seems like when he was signed to the Phillies, he was under the impression that he was going to be a full-time, everyday player. And that has not been the case. Now, obviously, Max Kepler has struggled this year, but pretty much from the onset, the Phillies have only started him against righties. Um, do you think that Kepler should be platooned? And do you think that he has a point about his frustration?
He has a point. I do not think he should be platooned. I do. I abhor platooning players, and I know a lot of people out there will say, "Well, it's matchups and all that stuff." And that no, I'm an old school guy. The more playing time you have, the more routine you get into. I believe.
Hmm.
At least that's what I feel, and I think you have a better chance of success. I really thought that if they had done that with Marsh in the beginning and just put him in center field, and then Rojas could have been somebody that came in off the bench for situational where we needed somebody to get on base and speed and have speed. If only the guy could bunt, then I think Marsh probably would have had more success. And I think the same thing about Kepler. If you put him out there and let him play every day, then maybe he'll start to get into that routine and get into a rhythm and maybe have better success. But that's just me.
Yeah, that at least you know what you have, right? Like as it is right now, when you're not even giving the guy a chance to start every day, and this goes for Stott, this goes for Marsh, this goes for Kepler. You don't know what you have if you don't start them every day. These people have to grow it, and Kepler's an older player. He's 32 or 33, something like that. Um, but at the end of the day, I think what this comes down to with Kepler is that we're just trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with him. I don't think that he was ever really the option that was going to save this outfield, being just another hitter from the left side, another guy that the Phillies were counting on to make a bounce back year, which was clearly the trend that they were going for last year in free agency. But I'm completely in agreement with you that he should be upset. He has a right to be upset. If he was promised something that he's not getting, I would be upset too.
Absolutely. And I think that you could probably call him a Dombrowski special. It seems like every year we get one of these players that comes in. He's, on a down year from the year before, with a hope that he's going to come back and maybe have a great year. And so far, it just doesn't seem like it's happened with any of the players that he's brought in like that, other than Edmundo Sosa. I think he's probably a great find. Um, but again, he's brought in as a bench player, really, and Kepler, like you said, was a brought in as a full time player. So yes, he has a right to complain about that, and I think that they probably should they should abide by their contract that they gave him as a full time player, or at least what he understood would be.
Do you think he's going to get booed tomorrow? I've been thinking about this over the last couple days, coming back to Philadelphia after everything that happened in Houston and then Atlanta. I think he's going to get booed. I don't agree with it, but I think it's going to happen.
That's a good question. Are there players that don't get booed at CBP?
I mean the kind of boo like Sean Rodriguez style. He's in the opening lineup and you just boo him immediately.
Uh, I'm going to predict that there's going to be a smattering. It's not going to be overwhelming. Um, I don't think the average fan that goes to the games at a night game are the true. I know everything that's with Kepler. But maybe I'll be wrong. We'll see.
Sure. And that's a great segue talking about these kind of 1 year deals that Dombrowski signed. And let's take stock of the upcoming free agents that this team has. We're going to go back and forth here. I'll read a name to you, and then I'll take the next one and talk a little bit about what you think the odds are of the Phillies re signing this player to come back for the 2026 season and potentially beyond. So let's start with the biggest free agent that the Phillies have, and that is Kyle Schwarber.
Oh boy, I want to say that they have a great chance. I don't think that he's going to be here next year.
Why is that?
Because he's going to probably want to get the money. I know that he said, the right things in interviews that I want to be, a Philly and I want to stay around. But when Dodger or Yankee money is waved in front of anybody, It's like the old cartoons with the apple pies where the characters float in the air.
Right.
um there, I have a feeling that he's going to go somewhere else and get paid, and he should. He's proven himself as probably the premier DH in baseball, and I really think that he's going to test the market. Obviously they didn't sign him to an extension yet. They haven't signed him to an extension yet, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, he's so close to free agency, he might as well wait it out. I would be all about signing him to a 2-year deal, which isn't going to happen, or a 3-year deal, which isn't going to happen. But I'm even questioning if I want him back to a deal of 4 or more years, knowing that he is going to be taking up the DH spot as the rest of this core is aging. So I'm in agreement with you that he's not going to come back. Will I be upset if he does? No. Will I be surprised if he does? No. But I'd probably put it at like a 35% chance that he's back right now.
That's probably very accurate.
So next we'll go JT Realmuto. I'm going to start on this one, and I think that the Phillies are in a tremendously interesting spot with JT Realmuto. He obviously has declined. Parts of his game are still excellent. He is still amazing at controlling runners on the bases. His pop time is still amazing, but his offense has really started to take a little bit of a decline. OPS plus now below 100. He is a below average offensive player. And I'm starting to wonder, as JT Realmuto continues to age into 2026 and 2027, how much worse is a catching core of Garrett Stubbs and Rafael Marchand than one of them plus JT Realmuto? Obviously, JT Realmuto is better, but I think that the Phillies could allocate the $10, $15 million that he'll get a year on his next contract better than having him on the team. And I think that they see that too. I think that the Phillies are probably not likely at all to get Realmuto back, especially when you consider that next year could be a luxury tax reset year. They need one of those coming up. So I'd put the number for Realmuto at like 15, 20%. Where are you at on JT?
I think it's about the same, maybe even 10. 10%, I mean. Just because he's right at that tipping point where his knees are going to start really going. His pop time, you can tell, is already wavering. Um,
A little
you
bit,
know,
yeah.
and in the game today, there was an illustration where he thought he caught the ball and it went through his legs back to the backstop, and he didn't know what was going on. And I know that that's only one instance in a sea of pitches, but it's another one of those things that you're going up, JT. You know, we're
Can
gonna
you
have
imagine if there
to.
weren't two outs there? There were two outs
I
there, and that if there was one out, the next ball would have been a sac fly, tie ball game.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're really going to have to weigh their options here. I know the subreddit screams about that trade for Real Muto and how we lost it. I don't agree with that. I think Real Muto has been a great asset for this team the last few years.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't see him coming back here. I think that they need to move from him.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe he came in the same year as Harper, 2019. So we're on to year 7 of JT Realmuto this year, which unbelievable how time flies. So next we'll go to the one that people are talking about the most today after yet another excellent start by him. And I'll let you start off with this one, Rangers Juarez.
I think after seeing Ranger pitch today, and after seeing him come back from the bad start that he had this year, yeah, I think that they need to bring him back. I really do, and I know that a lot of people are saying that he's probably going to be one of those pitch. There's great players that just gets lost in their situation coming up because the Phillies are blessed with a lot of pitching talent, that is coming up, and
Yeah.
Ranger's one of those people. But I mean, what a disaster! Unfortunately, um, the pitching situation is just because they have to decide what's going to happen. I mean, Nola, that contract is probably going to become an albatross
Albatross.
for
Yeah.
for Dombrowski. Um, and if they had put some of that toward Ranger, probably, it would have looked a lot better in the fans' eyes. But yeah, I would love to see Ranger back. I think they're going to make a great effort. I don't know if it's going to succeed, but I would love to see him back.
What do you think a Ranger contract looks like? Like, I have no idea, given his injury history. I think he's probably going to age well, given he doesn't rely on throwing hard. But I have absolutely no idea what we're looking at with Ranger Suarez as far as years and dollars comes to.
Yeah, and it may be a situation where he tests the market and doesn't really see the money that he wanted to see and comes back on a short-term deal to the Phillies just because it's always been home.
Right.
Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's probably the toughest one in the list is Ranger.
I agree, and I think we're going to learn a lot about that in this next month, because how the Phillies approach this trade deadline could mean a lot on how Ranger Suarez could potentially return to the team. Because as it is right now, with Abel and Painter, Ranger does not really have a spot, unless the Phillies make a trade and trade Luzardo off after this year or something like that. Right now, Rangers Suarez does not have a spot for 2026, but they can make a move in this next month that could create a spot for him. And I think that the chances of him coming back have gone up quite a bit over the last few weeks. I would have been at 5% a couple weeks ago, and I think now I've already gone up to probably about a 50-50 for Rangers Suarez.
I agree. I think that's probably where I am too. I like I said, the way this team is managed as far as front office is what I'm talking about. They always stress this, loyalty to good players, or even sometimes bad players or players that are on the verge of becoming bad. Ranger's not one of those. Ranger is somebody that I think that has years left and will perform well. Um, like you said, injury prone. But boy, he's so relaxed, nonchalant, nothing bothers him. Um,
Effortless.
yeah, I mean, yeah, effortless, exactly. And he pitches. He doesn't just throw, he pitches. He knows how to place a ball. He knows how to work a batter's weaknesses. Evident today, really, with how he pitched. Um, I I I think that it would be detrimental to them to lose him.
Yeah, and the next guy on the list is Jose Alvarado. He has a $9 million option for next year. 0% chance that option gets picked up, but I think that he's probably pretty likely to be here next year, as long as it looks like he has something left coming off of the suspension in like mid-August or whenever it is that he's able to return. As of right now, though, I'd probably put it like a 75-80% chance that Alvaro's back. If nothing else, just because the Phillies are going to need some help in the bullpen for next year. And $4 or $5 million, sure.
That's what I was just going to say. Well, I was going to ask, what do you think the salary looks like for him? I think you're spot on. It's probably going to be 4.5, something like that. And maybe he can have a great year next year and then get a good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. The next guy that we have is this might be a little bit of a shorter one, but Jordan Romano. What are your thoughts on him?
All right, next.
Joe Ross is next.
No, just kidding. Romano, I think that they probably should keep him on. There's a guy in the stands that sells beer. I know everybody hears that beer, 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 beer. Romano probably would be good for hot dog sales. They could keep him for concessions. That would be a great spot for him.
You think he'll take it? Maybe.
Obviously at a lower salary. No, Romano needs to go. There's 0% chance he comes back.
Yeah, I don't think he's cooked. His stuff just sometimes is absolutely electric, and he just mows down, the best of hitters. And sometimes it's like you can just after the first pitch tell he doesn't have it, and it's not going to go well. And that's pretty much what happened on Saturday. His first pitch, he pulled it like 3 feet above the strike zone, and it's just like this is just a George Romano bad outing. And fortunately, I don't think the Phillies are in a position to tolerate that. So I agree with you. Next on, we got Joe Ross, like I mentioned earlier. I think Joe Ross is another one that, his ERA is now like 5.2, 5.3, something like that. And I don't think there's any chance Joe Ross is on the team next year. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, and it's weird too, because there are flashes of great pitching from Joe Ross, followed by absolute horrible pitching. Leaving things up, missing spots horribly. Um, it's kind of frustrating. He's the batting frustration on the pitching side. You know that he can do it. You know that he's got experience enough to do it. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Next up, we have Max Kepler. Do you have any thoughts on the odds of Max Kepler being a part of the 2026 Phillies?
He was on a 1 year deal. From is that what right?
He has 1 year deal.
Okay. Yeah, 0%. Unless post All-Star break, Max Kepler breaks out and catches up to Schwarber on the home run front. Yeah, bye, bye, Max Kepler.
I think that the chances of Max Kepler being on this team in August are probably like 25% right now,
Yeah,
even. Uh, And here's one that's like technically an option, but it won't end up being an option. And that's Matt Strom. It's a little bit of an interesting situation. He has an option that increases by $1 million for each of 40, 50, and 60 innings in 2025. That option is guaranteed at 7.5 million as long as Strom has 60 innings pitched in 2025 and he passes the physical after the season. And that vests at 60 innings pitched. I don't think that there's any chance that Matt Strom does not pitch 60 innings this year. So that is going to vest. But what are your thoughts on Matt Strom making $7.5 million next year? Do you think that this year is just an aberration, or do you think that it's a sign that maybe we're lighting some money on fire for the 2026 Phillies?
It may be a case of lighting money on fire. I still want to see him here. I really like him as a pitcher. I think he's got some left in the tank for this season, and I predict that he's probably just going to get better as the season goes on. That's my, crystal ball prediction that we see Matt Strom improve as the season goes on, and maybe into the playoffs.
Sure. I think that's a great point. I am more optimistic in him than I am in a lot of other people on this team recovering from their poor first halves. Um, One more point I want to make. This is not an upcoming free agent for this year, but instead a free agent after 2026. But a lot of people are talking about both Nick Castellanos and Taijuan Walker being cap casualties, and the Phillies finding some way to ship them off to get some luxury tax relief for 2026. Um, I think that this is probably pretty likely for the both of them. Either burning half their money and keeping half the money, or shipping a low level prospect along with them. I am pretty confident that the Phillies are going to try to reset the luxury tax next year. And I know there's a lot of people that love Nick Castellanos and a lot fewer people that like Taijuan Walker. Even though they've both been great people on their time with the Phillies. But I am going under the expectation that neither of them are going to be a part of the 2026 Phillies. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. Basically, if any team wants to pick up Castellanos, all they have to do is throw the deal low and outside, and he'll chase it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my thought.
I can tell you're low on Nick Castellanos, and
I am.
he's
Yeah, I am low on him.
he struggles a lot with the situational hitting. I think him and JT are the two that struggle the most with it on the team. As a person, I've really enjoyed Nick Castellanos before he was a Philly even. But it's just a shame how it's worked out here. It feels like the outfield defense is getting worse. I said in an earlier podcast that speed was the issue, and he actually has above 50th percentile speed in MLB, which surprised me. But really, it's more the route running, and you saw that this weekend that he just doesn't track balls all that well, and it's just getting a little bit untenable. So while I really like watching Nick Castellanos and also don't like watching Nick Castellanos, I think that his time's coming to an end after this year.
Totally agree, and I really do like him. I don't want to make it seem like I don't like him. I love him as a player. I love his personality. I think he fits within the Philly personality. Like, this is what we want a player to be. He's brash.
100%.
Yeah, he's brash. He says what's on his mind. He's emotional when things go right. He lashes out when things go wrong. That's probably a bad thing. But I really, really wanted him to be a good player. But he's not a great outfielder. And as you said, situational hitting is just not there enough to justify his paycheck and keeping him around.
100%. And this year they kind of need him just because he gives you an OPS plus of around 100 from the right side, which there's not many guys on the Phillies that do that this year. But hopefully, with a good offseason and potentially good trade deadline this year, that can change. And the Phillies are in less of a position of desperately needing that for 2026.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's look forward a little bit to the Padres here. I actually have pretty strong opinions about this series. Like I feel like I can tell exactly how this is going to go. But Monday night we have Zach Wheeler against Waldron, the knuckleballer for the Padres, who was announced just a few hours ago. He'll be making his first start of the season tomorrow. On Tuesday we have Nick Pivetta making his return to Citizens Bank Park, going against Christopher Sanchez. And then Wednesday we have Dylan Cease against Mick Abel. Uh, from a high level, what are your thoughts on this series?
I I don't know. Is Pavetta somebody that's going to come in here and absolutely roast us as a lineup just because of his track record? Um, you know, Chris showed some weakness this week, I think, a little bit. They got to him a little bit, and as brilliant as I think he's pitched this season, I think he's showing signs of fatigue, maybe. Wheeler's Wheeler. It all depends on if he gets help at the plate. If he gets run support, then he's a W. Um, I would say that the first game's a win, second game's a toss up, and the third game probably is going to play off the other two. It depends on if we're on a roll or if we're not. If we get absolutely blitzed the first two games, then that last game, I'm not sure because Abel did miss a start. Let's not forget.
Right.
So he's kind of off his game. We'll have to see how he rebounds for that. So I'm not sure. I want to say that we take this series first and last game, with the middle one being a toss up. But I think it's probably going to be a series loss.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I almost never have super strong opinions about every game in a series, but this is the rare example where I do. Um, Matt Waldron last year he went, I believe, 7 innings, 1 run against the Phillies. I think that there's almost no chance that this lineup is hitting a knuckleballer. So even though I think Wheeler is going to be great, I could see tomorrow being like a 1-0, 2-1 style of loss. Um, Nick
Exactly.
Nick Pivetta coming back to Citizens Bank Park. He has made 2 starts against the Phillies, both of which were in Fenway Park, and both of which he allowed 4 runs in 4 innings. So at Fenway Park against the Phillies, Pivetta allowed 8 runs in 8 innings for a 9.0 ERA. And I really enjoyed Nick Pivetta. I thought he was a fun pitcher to watch while he was here, but he always seemed to struggle with his emotions, and I think there is a 0% chance that he's going to handle his emotions on Tuesday coming back. And then Cease versus Abel is just too much of a pitching disadvantage for the Phillies for me to be confident. So unfortunately, I think that this is going to be a series loss where the Phillies win one, but unfortunately lose the other two.
Yeah, see, that's interesting because I think I see this lineup doing so poorly against pitchers that they should pummel, and they just go up there and swing, 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 and there's strikeout after strikeout, and I want to see them rock Pavetta, and I hope you're right.
Yeah, I would love to see Nick Pivetta get rocked. It's always fun seeing the old pitchers come back. And one other thing I wanted to point out, because this is like a little pet peeve of mine. Um, why are these firework nights starting even earlier than other games do? Phillies most starts this year is a 6:45 start for the night games. Why are we starting firework games at 6:30? We're at almost the longest days of the year. That was about a week ago. And if this is like a 2 hour, 15-minute game, which is not a rare thing to happen nowadays, you're still going to have the sun shining when the game is over and the fireworks start. I am more upset about this than I need to be, but it makes absolutely no sense.
Uh, I've been kind of it's been kind of weird this year, hasn't it? With starting times, it seems like they're all over the place.
Especially Saturdays, right? Like the Saturdays, they change, it
Yeah,
feels like every week.
yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird. And what do you think the reason is for that? Do you think it has something to do with TV?
I don't know. I feel like they're almost trying to make sure people still get out at around the same time as they usually do. So they're trying to push the game ahead a little bit to the fireworks, take it to the end of a normal game. But in general, I am all for the pitch clock and how that sped up the game. But just give me my 7:05 starts back. It was that way forever, and I loved it. And that 20-minute gap just makes it actually so much harder to get to the games on time coming from South Jersey and going over the Walt and everything.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm one of the old school guys. So I've been watching this team since the 70s and as a child obviously. And I'm not that old. And for the longest time it was 7:05. 7:05 was the start time for years and years and years. And I don't understand why it's so weird now where we got, the 45 starts. Um, you know, I just it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm in total agreement with you. That's absurd.
And a couple of years ago, it was 6:40. So we went from like 7:05 to 6:40, now to 6:45. It's just so inconsistent. But anyways, that's all that I had for today. Phil's Forever. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share with everybody while you were here?
No, when we were taking stock of the upcoming free agents, um, I wanted to ask you, who do you see coming to this team to make a difference? Like, who can they go after at the deadline to make a difference, and will they?
Yeah, I'm probably going to have a whole podcast episode where I'm talking all about the trade deadline. I ultimately am thinking more and more that they are not going to make a big change. It doesn't really seem to be Dave Dombrowski's MO since he's been here. I think that's coming from the ownership wanting to have this not turn into a post 2011 Phillies where the team's just completely uncompetitive. And I don't think they're going to want to sell on any of their big prospects, and therefore I don't think they're going to get anybody big in. But with that being said, I would be willing to give up serious, serious prospect capital. This includes at least one of Andrew Painter and Aiden Miller for Jacob Wilson. Jacob Wilson is so fun to watch on the Oakland A's or the Sacramento A's, and I
Yeah,
think he would be a perfect fit. He's young; it's his first year. He has 5 years of team control left. Just I would give up just about anything for Jacob Wilson. He's a right-handed hitter. He is, good enough defensively. I need Jacob Wilson on this team.
that would be amazing. I think that that would be fantastic. Um, I too think he's a good player. I think that he would do well here. I wonder if they would part with him, for what the prospects that you said. It may cost a little more, maybe. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah. Like hypothetical, if Aiden Miller turns into Jacob Wilson, we are thrilled with that. That is an amazing outcome for Aiden Miller. So I would consider even a package, honestly, with Painter and Miller, which I know a lot of people are going to get
Oof.
upset at me about, but I think Jacob Wilson is worth doing it for. Because at the end of the day, I want this team to have a younger core, and I want to take the what seems like a sure thing of what Jacob Wilson's going to be for the next 5 years. But
Yeah, I agree. The team needs an infusion of youth. Like you said, the core player, the player core is getting older now. So we've got to start, bringing in some younger players, some exciting players, uh, and he's definitely one of them. So good pick.
And one other thing that I want to call out, I know Dave Dombrowski kind of shoot off the idea the other day, but things just are so much easier if Bryce Harper can go back to playing the outfield for like just this half season. It's going to be so much easier to improve by getting a first baseman than to get an outfielder. Imagine if the Phillies right now, instead of Max Kepler, had had Pete Alonso. Like this team would be completely different. We just need power, and first base is where you can get that power. And according to Bryce, the pain is coming from swinging the bat, not from playing the field. So I'm not as worried about his wrist in the outfield, but I wish that they would consider it more than it seems like they are.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think a lot of people consider would be a betterment for the team. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he likes where he is now, playing first,
Yeah,
and I don't think he would relent that position for the betterment of the team. Sadly, I think I know that he is rah rah Phillies. I'm all about it, but ultimately, I think he's so comfortable there now that they're never gonna move him off of that unless it's to a DH position as he ages.
Yeah, and at that point, you can't have Kyle Schwarber anymore, right? Put
Yeah,
Kyle Schwarber in the
exactly.
outfield. Put Kyle Schwarber back in left field.
I mean, he stole a base. He looked like a gazelle today, running
He
those
looks
bases.
athletic.
I mean, a gazelle that's eaten like for weeks and weeks and never stopped, but still a
Compared to
gazelle.
like 23 Schwarber, this guy is like 3 times the athlete. It's
Oh
incredible.
yeah, he did slim down a lot, and I joke about that because, we always say in the subreddit, known speedster Kyle Schwarber, but he is slimmed down, and I think he's feeling a lot better uh, base running, and seeing him steal that base today made me happy.
Yeah. Stealing 2020 watch. I think he's at 8 stolen bases on the year. There's a chance. Kyle Schwarber 2020.
That that would be insane.
But anyways, thank you so much for joining the podcast, PhilsForever. This was great, and I really enjoyed having you on.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure that you rate us 5 stars, review. It really does help, and stay tuned for the future. We have some exciting news that we're not quite ready to announce yet. But this is, I guess, an announcement of a future announcement to keep you all waiting for that I think you're going to love. So I will see you all later in the week. We will come at you at the end of this Padres series, either Wednesday night or sometime Thursday. And I will see you all then. Have a good one.